talk about this question. This question says that if the magnitude of the resultant force is to be 500 Newton directed along the positive y-axis, determine the magnitude of force F, which means this vector, and its direction. The word direction means is we have to find the angle, which means this angle. So let's draw a diagram. Question says that we have the resultant force acting along the positive y-axis. So this is our resultant force, which has a magnitude of 500 Newton, and this is our 700 Newton force, and this is negative x-axis, and this is our F vector, which makes an angle theta with positive x-axis. So first of all, you have to join these vector. So let's suppose if 700 Newton is your first vector and F is your second vector, so you have to put the tail of second vector on the head of first vector like this. This is F. Question says that 700 Newton makes an angle of 15 degree with negative x-axis, and we know that the angle between any two axes, let's suppose x and y, y and z, and x and z, is nothing but 90 degree. So the angle between positive y-axis, or the angle between 500 Newton, because 500 Newton is acting along the positive y-axis, so the angle between positive y-axis and negative x-axis is 90 degree. So what about this whole angle? This is nothing but 90 degree plus 15 degree, and we get 105 degree. So the angle between 500 Newton and 700 Newton is 105 degree. I hope you get it. This one whole, this is 105 degree. So how can we find the value of F here? So apply the law of cosine here, which says that F is equal to under root f1 square plus f2 square minus 2 f1 f2 cos of theta. Why I am putting minus sign here? Because the 700 Newton is acting along the negative x-axis. That's why I am putting minus sign here. So in our status course, we focus on two things. One is graphical way and the other one is analytical way. So this type of questions, when the resultant force is actually given to us, we use this concept, and this concept says that when this resultant force is given to us, we assume that the resultant force is actually F1 and the other force is actually F2, and the angle between them is actually theta. So but this can actually work this type of problem only when resultant force is given to us only. So F is equal to 500 square plus 700 square minus 2 multiplied by 500 multiplied by 700 multiplied by cos 105 degree. Grab the calculator, put the values into it and solve it for F. So the answer would be F is equal to 959.67 Newton. This is basically the magnitude of F. Now, how can we find the direction or angle? Let's suppose the angle between 959.67 and 700 is alpha, and the angle between 500 and 959.67 is beta. So apply the law of sine to find out the direction or the angle between the vectors. This says that sine beta upon 700 is equal to sine 105 degree upon 959.67, which is equal to sine alpha upon 500. We have to find out the angle between 959.67 and 500 Newton, this one, so that we can go to our final answer. So we compare these two, sine beta upon 700, sine 105 degree upon 959.67. So sine beta is nothing but sine 105 degree upon 959.67 multiplied by 700. Grab the calculator, put the values into it and solve it for beta. So the value of beta is 44.06 degree. We don't need to find out the value of alpha, but if you really want to find out the value of alpha, if you look carefully into this diagram, you have seen a triangle, and in triangle the total summation of angle is 180 degree. So 180 degree minus 44.06 degree minus 105 degree is equal to alpha. So if you subtract these angles, you actually find out the value of alpha. Now the angle between 959.67 and 500 Newton is 44.06 degree, and this is basically a head-to-head angle. So if you look a diagram into this question, this is 500 Newton, and this angle also is 44.06 degree, because this is basically a head-to-head angle and this is tail-to-tail angle, and head-to-head angle and tail-to-tail angle are always equal, and we know that the angle between two axes, this is positive y and this is positive x, is nothing but 90 degree. So this angle is basically 90 degree. So if you subtract this 90 degree with this 44.06 degree, you can actually get this angle, this one, the purple one. So this is 90 degree minus 44.06 degree, which is actually to 44.94 degree. So this question has been solved here.